lot of content, a lot of information. But when we start using in our day-to-day life, then only it gives the real experience to transform not only yours, but it helps to transform others too.
Yes, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Today we have Dr. Pankaj Rai. I hope many of you must have seen him and read his article on Times of India. I have shared on the group also all the articles, whatever I have found on net, and from him, what he had shared with us. Let me just first tell something about our e-cafe, that is Emotional Cafe. Emotional Cafe is powered by mHealth. mHealth is a company which is into holistic wellness and fitness. And mHealth has 3 months back has come up with a new vertical that's called Emotional Cafe, where we are running 2 programs. One is masterclass and another one is open mic, where we have been inviting many speakers to share their real life story, any incident which could inspire us or motivate us. So, and today we have here Dr. Pankaj Rai. I'll just introduce him. He is an international trainer, psychologist, motivational speaker, social worker, and writer. He has done masters in psychology and PhD in mindfulness. This is what actually attracted me. Total number of live sessions he has been taking is more than 1,500. International training delivered for CTO and APT. Free life coach support for psychological counseling for various NGO and socially backwards institutions. Total trainees under him are more than 30,000. Life coach one-to-one session, he has been taking more than 900. Many articles published with the Times of India, and it's still been published. So today he will be sharing his journey in this mindfulness, how he has learned and come into it. Pankajji, it all goes over to you. I have also made you the co-host. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for invitation. Is my voice is audible clearly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So once again, congratulations to all of you that you started a very holistic and spiritual journey, which we called Emotional Cafe, isn't it? Because everybody knows that everything around us is a form of energy, and energy neither can be created nor can be destroyed, but can be converted from one form to another form. And this is one of the basic principles, that energy and matter are convertible to each other. And we see a lot of matter around us. We see a lot of energy around us. So sometimes our energy may be negative, sometimes our energy may be positive. So how to transform this energy? Because transformation is not a one-time step, it's a continuous process. So when we talk about any process, when we talk about any verbs, so the one thing which is always important and whose presence is important, that we call our consciousness. So I'm not only a matter, I'm not only a mind, I'm not only a body, but I'm something beyond my mind, something beyond my body, which we call consciousness. So if I'm conscious, in the presence of consciousness, in the presence of your awareness, you bring and you experience a lot of change. So the same journey started with me also, because by profession I'm an engineer, and I did my engineering in 2001, and then did my master's in business administrations in 2005, 6, 7, and I was working quite well in a government department. But as usual, a lot of questions which invokes you, which provokes you, and it starts, what is the objective of life? Who are you? Whatsoever you are doing, what is the purpose? What is your mindset? And exactly what is mine, which is creating sometimes a lot of trouble for you, and sometimes it gives you a lot of solutions to you. What is the stress? What is anxiety? Why people are going through depressions? What are the psychological issues? A lot of questions started provoking me inside. And that ultimate aim is to know who you are, or who am I. And when this question is started arising in my mind, then my journey started. It's around 2008. Then I started reading the things. Then I started reading a lot of scriptures. I started reading a lot of almost, every religions. And slowly, I came to know one of the biggest hurdle. One of the biggest hurdle in knowing the self is your mind. And first time I heard this word, which is called mindfulness. It is basically originated from Buddhism. So, as usual, I was studying in my schools, and I did my engineering. And one of the worst phase which I've also gone through in my life, I myself got depressed. It was around 2000 and 2001. I've gone through this severe depression state. I've taken a lot of treatment for almost a years, and fortunately, I came out from this situation. So that was also provoking questions from myself, that why people start overthinking. What are the root cause that people easily get attracted to any negative thought? Why we generate negative emotions? Why we cannot live in the present? Why we cannot empty our mind? Why a lot of content are available in the mind? Why mind is always full of thoughts? What are the root cause of it? Fortunately, in the year 2001, I came out and I started working and generated a lot of experience. And when I started reading a lot of, scriptures, a lot of listening, a lot of good people, a lot of enlightened people, I tried to discuss with those things. And finally, when I completed my journey, then from being an engineer, I thought this is not what I want to be, and this is not my passion. Because when you follow your passion, when you live your passion, and if your passion become your profession, you don't work, you are always on holiday. So from 16 years back, I changed my profession from being an engineer to a psychologist. I started my journey to know what is mind and the different reflections of mind. So I did my master's after doing my MBA in psychology. And in the year 2017-18, I registered for the PhD also, and which is done basically in mindfulness. So I started my journey from being a motivational speaker from 2010 and 11. I know first time when I have taken my sessions, it was very difficult for me to speak. But slowly, when I started practicing mindfulness in my day to day life, which is almost 10 to 15 years, I am practicing mindfulness in my day to day life. Then slowly, I come to know that yes, it's not like mind cannot control you all the time. You can also control your mind. You can also become the master of your mind. And the first step, which I started practicing with my mindfulness journey, that was exactly related to breathing, which we call pranayama. So I started practicing pranayama. I started watching my breath. I started observing my breath so many times, because the way I feel myself today as an as a motivational speaker, as a writer, or as a psychologist. If I look back myself at 15 years back, I was very aggressive. I was very short tempered. I was very reactive kind of person. If I got stuck in a traffic, I started fighting with the people. So many incidents took place in my life, which was just a reflection of my anger, frustration, and irritations. So I found a lot of personality, negative personality traits was there in my life. But the moment I started practicing with my breathe, when I slow down with my breathe, when I start taking my deep breathing patterns, I used to sit for, initially I started sitting for 180 seconds, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Then I started sitting for hours together, sitting silently and doing nothing and observing myself, what is going inside me, what thought is coming inside me, what is the trigger which is generating that particular thought. And if some particular thought is there, what is the emotion behind it? I need to watch my energy. And when I started practicing this, breathing, and which was very simple, I have to take deep inhale, hold for some time, then exhale, then hold for some time. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. This is what I started my mindfulness journey. Because if you want to control your mind, and if you want to watch your mind, what exactly your mind is doing, one of the important thing is that you cannot control your mind by your mind. Mind cannot be controlled of in its own way. So something is inside you which is more powerful than mind. Something is inside you which can watch your mind. Something is inside you which can make you an observer. Something is inside you through which you can watch your body, you can watch your mind, you can watch your thoughts. Because whenever we go to sleep and whenever you wake up in the morning, you find something is inside you which tells you exactly today's sleep was good or yesterday's sleep was not good. So when I say who am I, and when you start following this journey, it's not easy that you start sitting silently and immediately you can become silent. Thousands and millions times it happens, you go out of your track. Thousands of times it happens, you start focusing on yourself and some thoughts pops up and it takes you away from your journey of being self-aware. So first, if when I started practicing mindfulness, when I started practicing through my breathing, when I started watching myself, when I started trying to know what exactly mind is, what are the triggers which generates the thought, what are those moments when you become mechanical, what are those moments when you are not self-aware about yourself, why we become so much mechanical, why I'm so much habitual, why I follow a particular pattern. Then I come to know, yeah, there are different parts of mind, sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious, and sometimes you remain there is subconscious state of minds. So mind also triggers. And it was very surprising to know that when I studied that, and a lot of research paper has also been published, a normal human being who lives in their 70 to 80 years in their life, hardly 5 to 6 hour period is there when they are actually self-aware. So I came to know about this figure in the year of 2011 and I got really surprised. I started writing. First, I started watching my breath. First, I started observing my breath because it is a normal experience. Whenever we get angry, whenever we get anxious, whenever we get frustrated, whenever we get excited, our breathing pattern increases. And a lot of scriptures and a lot of religions and a lot of Buddhism and Tibetan practices, they tell us if you want to do something, then first you have to be the master of your breath. So if you count down your breath, if you can make it deep and slow, you can regulate your mind because your breath is the bridge between mind and body. So somehow I try to hold my breath. Somehow I try to observe when I make my breath slow and deep, what it impacts on your mind. And slowly, slowly, I came to know that the moment you slow down your breath, your mind, in say, the frequency of thoughts also slows down. Sometimes you can watch the gap between two thoughts. Sometimes you become thoughtless. Sometimes there is a rational of thoughts. Sometimes you feel that you are sitting silently and there is a huge flow of traffic, your thoughts, and the moment you hold it, they stops. And the moment you watch your thoughts, they falls down. The moment you become witness of yourself, which we call Sakshi Bhav, it is very famous techniques to know yourself. So around 2012 and 13, I studied about the mindfulness. And the first picture which I would like to show you, all of you, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can. I have made you the co-host.
Okay. So this is a picture which I would like to share with you, all of you. And first time this attracted me, this picture, which talks about we don't live in present. Most of the time, thoughts pops up and either we goes to the past or we worry about the future. So when we talk about mind, when we talk about time, time is divided in three tense: past tense, present tense, and future tense. When we talk about mind, somebody says mind is also time. So mind is also having its past. Mind is also having worried about the future. But when we talk about life, it exists in present. So my first question was in 2011-12 that, am I living in present? Am I present in present? क्या मैं वर्तमान में उपस्थित हूँ? क्या मैं होशपूर्वक अपना जीवन जी रहा हूँ? I started writing, am I living in present? Big question mark. Because this is also a very good technique which we call classical conditioning to reprogram your mind. Because whenever we write something, whenever I ask some questions from myself, I narrowed down my focus to that particular questions. And very, magical things happens in mind. It also increases the level of serotonin, which is a kind of neurotransmitter, which increases our motivation level, which increases our focus. So I started writing, and daily in the morning, whenever I wake up, I start to write 3 to 4 questions. And the basic questions: am I present in present? Big question mark. Why I try to hold my past, why I try to hold my bad experiences of life, which has already gone. Am I honest with myself? Or do I try to make myself fool? Am I procrastinating? Why so many times it happens, I go beyond, out of my control? Am I a good listener? Because listening doesn't need your ears, it needs your silent mind. Right now, we are connected through online mode. You are in front of your computer screen or your mobile phone. Physically, you are there, but the $1,000,000 question is there: mentally, am I present? Am I total in the moment? So this is, something which is wonderful, which I got to know. The more I ask and the honestly I reply, that answer generates a new questions, which we call questioning the self with root cause analysis. And this makes wonders in my life. I started writing my own diary, which I say Pankaj Success Diary. And I asked some questions. What is the aim of my life? Big question mark. And whatsoever is the aim. So I used to write, my aim is to know myself. Who am I exactly? So next question comes out. Do you know who you are? Are you this body? Are you this mind? Or something beyond this? What exactly who you are? How you know that who you are? Who is asking these questions to yourself? And the one who is asking this question, is it mine? Is it your consciousness? Or is it something which you read from your Google or internet and you are simply repeating like as a puppet? Ask. And the more I started asking, the more I started going to the root cause analysis, it started wonders. The moment I start asking, real-time questions, which is totally related to this particular moment, I have found one magical thing happens. Immediately you become self-aware. You come into present. You know what exactly you are doing. And sometimes you can watch your mind also, what the foolish thing it is doing with yourself. So first, I started with the breathing. The moment some impulse arises, I stop my breath. Suppose I was in a traffic. Somebody said bad words to me. I stop my breath. And the moment I stop my breath, immediately my reactions transform into responses. And the second magical things which transformed my life, when I started writing myself on the diary. Am I a good listener? Am I a good speaker? How do I speak? Do I love to listen myself? Am I a good observer? Do I observe others more or do I observe myself? What is its frequency? And when I observe myself, what are the things which exactly need change? What are the negative things inside me? So this picture made a wonders in me, and most of the time I ask from whether when I do I in a left state of mind, which we say, full of mind, or I am in the right state of mind, which we say mindful. These two girls are roaming in the gardens, and the one who is physically and mentally enjoying the scenery, pictures, nature, beauty, she is total. She is total there. Left side, the girl who's wearing the red shirt. Physically, she is in the garden, but mentally somewhere else. And this is something made this picture exactly one of the biggest reason of my transformation most of the time, because a picture is sufficient to say more than 1,000 or 2,000 words. And when I started grabbing this picture in my mind, and most of the am I left side, am I full of mind or mindful? And if I'm a mindful, then why these thoughts are coming into my mind? And one of the basic reasons, what is mind? It took me 4 to 5 years from 2012 to 2016 to exactly understand what exactly mind is. And I would like to show you this another picture which talks about this. Something, we are a combination of hardware and software, like as the laptop and the mobile. This is brain something a kind of hardware, and mind something which is a kind of software. It exists. I cannot see it, but it exists. I program it. How do I program it? What is its programming language? How I code it? Because everybody is born of this hardware. Everybody took birth with this hardware, physical structure, matter. But mind is something, that kind of interface, which exactly converts our hardware and software, the kind of energy shift took place with its presence. So suppose if I want to write a code in a computer through C, C++, Java, Unix, I make some program and accordingly my computer function. So when we go into the mind, the kind of softwares, and we try to understand what is a thought. If I say what is a mind, so mind is full of thoughts. So my next question which I wrote in my diary is, what is a thought? I started finding what is a thought, how it generates. Is it something which is a matter, or it is something which is a part of energy? How it generates. If it is energy, so definitely it must be having some frequency. Every thought is having some frequency. When it generates, so when I start observing, and the moment you shift from your present, the moment you become bit of unconscious, immediately thoughts pops up. If you are totally conscious, it won't be there. We can experience it right now. We are communicating through a media. And if you are total physical and mental presence, if you are total listening, which we call mindful listening, this was the third step when I started transforming. First, I start with a breathe. I started writing and asking questions from myself. What is a thought? Am I a good listener? So if you are total with the listening, sometimes you are listening to music and you are total, sometimes you are singing to a song and you are total with it. You don't have any thought in your mind if you are total with the singing. You don't have any thought in your mind if you are total with the dancing. You don't have any thought in your mind if you are total with anything which may be creative. So the observation is that when I become total, when I become conscious, thought disappears. The moment I become subconscious or sometime unconscious, or sometime I become unaware, sometime I disconnect it pops up. So third formula, which I learned from this writing and practicing, is that the moment I shift from my present, or if I'm not present in present, the traffic of thought increases. If I'm present, thought reduces, traffic is reduces, quite clear, cloud is not there. But the moment I become unaware, unaware means what I'm doing in the moment. If I don't know what I'm doing in the moment, if I don't know what is going in my mind, if my hand is shaking, if I'm not aware of it, thoughts pops up. Or if I'm shaking my hand without of my knowledge, thoughts pops up, increases traffic, and they are very rational. They are very irrelevant because in unconscious, how much data we contain in the form of energy, how much imprints we carry in our mind, nobody knows. It's almost infinite. So many times it's are very rational, sometimes it's irrational. So when we talk about this software, so we control it through our thoughts, sometimes emotions, feelings. So fourth important key which I started learning, I started writing my thoughts, the most of the frequent thoughts, which is generating overthinking. What are those thoughts which takes me out from my present? What is those? Negative energy, sometimes negative thoughts. If negative thought is there, what is my emotions? If positive thought is there, what is my emotions? If negative thought is there, what are the chemical changes took place in my mind? Sometimes if you are positive thoughts and if you are relaxed, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin, a lot of neurotransmitter releases, which gives you boost. But sometimes when you become negative, sometimes when you are stressed, sometimes we say, sometimes you are, full of mind. So this state, which we say full of mind, when I'm not in present, I increases the traffic. What is a thought? How I can watch my thought? And what happens when I watch my thought? Am I a good watcher? Am I a good observer? And what happens? What is relations with your five senses? If you are sensitive enough, can you watch yourself? And what happens when you become insensitive, non-sensitive? So continue from breathing, then writing, and this writing almost started giving the answers of those questions, which we say, who am I? I listened a lot about Raman Maharshi, Osho, Buddhisms, and it really helped me a lot. So slowly, what change I start observing in my day-to-day life, sometime it happens, I can watch my anger. I can watch what thoughts which are triggering to my anger. Usually what happens most of the time, whenever we get angry, whenever we get anxious, we become aware when this process completes. We become aware after post anger. But if I can become aware about the anger, the moment these thoughts are generating, negative thoughts are generating, or pressure are getting built up, at that stage, it's easy to transform the energy. But once that energy and its form changes, then it's difficult. So when I start, am I getting angry? Am I getting angry? Am I out of, is my emotions are out of my control? Because so many times I was in a public dealing, I was in an enterprise sales, I was meeting with the thousands of people most of the time. And so many times it happens the moment I watch the people, it's easy to read them. It's easy to connect them. To, I think somebody's mic is muted. Okay. So it's easy to connect when you are connected with the self. And the question is how to connect with the self. And the answer is when you are silent, you are connected with the self. When there is a noise in the mind, you are disconnected. It's a wonderful formula. So when I am silent, I know what is going inside me. But when I am noisy, when my mind is chattering, I'm disconnected. Okay. So wonderful formula, wonderful experience. When I'm silent, my emotions are in my control. When I'm relaxed, I'm not reacting. When I'm full with the noise, I'm reacting. When I'm in a hurry, I may react. But when I start my walk and transformed my walk into mindful walk, gave a big difference. Usually what happens whenever I used to go for a morning or evening walk, or whenever I'm walking in an office, whenever I'm walking and meeting with the clients and dealing with the people, giving any presentations, in addition to walk, I observed that I'm involved in a self-talk also. Walk plus self-talk. Both are happening simultaneously. Walk plus self-talk. Then I started writing. How is my self-talk? Is it positive? Is it negative? How do I define myself while doing a self-talk? Or is it possible to walk without self-talk? Big question mark. Is it possible to walk without self-talk? There was no answer. It was a blank. So one day I changed my pattern. Instead of walking forward, I tried reverse walk. Instead of following a pattern, suppose my usual speed of walking was 5 kilometers an hour. I tried to slow down, more slow down, very slow walk. Another experience generated. The moment I changed my walking pattern, I was connected with the walk. I can walk without self-talk. Not exactly in a first attempt, I got 100% success. It took over years. It took years together to generate an art where when I can walk with mindful walk, a walk without self-talk, a total walk. And the experience generated was when I changed my walking pattern, I become self-aware with the walk. So if I'm mechanical, walk is there with self-talk. If I'm robotic, walk is there with the self-talk. But if I change pattern, walk is there, but total walk is there, which we can say mindful walk. And that walk makes difference. During that walk, you can empty yourself. During that walk, I'm not losing energy. I'm gaining energy. If I'm aware about walk, I feel more connected. I feel the touch. I feel the movement of my hands. I can feel the grounding. And the final conclusion is that at least for 30 minutes when I'm walking, for 15 or 20 minutes, my self-awareness level increased. Simply changing the way I walk, simply changing the pattern, I can make myself mindful, totally mindful for during those 15 or 20 minutes, which we call mindful walk. Wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. So to reduce this noise, I used to sit, meditate. I used to observe my breath for a longer period of time. But for professionals, as I was working, it was not possible. For holidays, it was easy to do it for me. But for working days, it was difficult. So another question arises. It is possible to be mindful with your professional and personal life. Another question popped up. Is it possible that you can be meditative while you work? Is it possible that you can be meditative while you are talking to your clients? Is it possible that you can be meditative while you are delivering your lectures, your sessions? Sometimes, the moment you are into any actions, distractions increases. The moment you are involved in any activity, sometime monotasking, sometime multitasking, it's difficult to maintain your focus. So what to do? When I studied mindfulness, it's a kind of modern meditations. You can be mindful with anything. This is the beauty which was written in Buddhism. You can be mindful at any time, any place, and anywhere. This is, something wonderful which triggers me. How I can be mindful anytime, any place, and anywhere? How it could be possible to be mindful? Mindful means if I am in this particular moment. Mindfulness is something which helps you to be aware in the moment. Mindfulness brings you into the moment. Mindfulness is a state of mind when you are totally present and present. Mindfulness is something when you are total with any act, physically as well as mentally. Wonderful. So if you are mindful with your anger, you cannot get angry. This is what my experience. I cannot get angry with full of my awareness. Little bit of unawareness, little bit of unconsciousness is needed. So I use this word consciousness and unconsciousness many of times. So let us try to understand, what is consciousness and what is unconsciousness and how this transitional shift took place during the entire day. When you put any iceberg into a water, it's 10% is above the water and 90% is below the water. It is a very normal psychological picture. Most of the time we used to see it. So very rarely I am conscious, and most of the time my mind, which is almost infinite, full of energy, full of imprints and full of neural networks, full of neural trans and a lot of energy, I'm not aware of it. I'm totally unconscious. Most of the time unconscious. So this, how I can make this transitional shift from this being unconscious to conscious. In summary, मैं अपनी बेहोशी को होश में कैसे परिवर्तित कर सकता हूँ, या जब मैं थोड़ा भी माइंडफुल होता हूँ, टोटल होता हूँ, तो क्या मैं कॉन्शियस होता हूँ, या जब मैं शारीरिक और मानसिक उपस्थिति के साथ किसी काम में इन्वॉल्व होता हूँ, तो क्या मैं टोटल होता हूँ? And is it possible to be total during an entire day? Is it possible to be total most of the time? I was taking an interview in 2017 and 18, and I was observing. I was simply observing. Most of the time, I used to sit as an observer. I don't ask any question. I simply observe. And wonderful thing which I experienced, because normally we are having five senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Out of these five senses, most of the energy which we receive from outside world to inside world through our eyes. So we reflect our inner emotional state also through eyes. Our eyes talks a lot, so we can simply watch somebody's eyes and we can understand, what is his state of mind. Is it bit conscious or bit unconscious, and whether it is telling the truth or lying. So this was a simple observation. I found that when there is a bit noise, I'm not a good observer. How I can be a good observer? Big question mark. And when I say, when I'm watching some subject as an object, suppose this is some subject and I'm watching as an object, and this subject and object, this two-way visual communication is there. Something inside us which can watch this both, the subject as well as object, the third person, which we call the visualizer, the drashta. Am I an observer which can watch this subject and object both, including myself? The one whom I'm watching, the one who is watching, and the third person who is watching the both, the subject and object. Am I that observer? And when I become the observer, what is the state of mind? What is the traffic? What is the frequency of thoughts? Do I become mindful? Or still I become full of mind when I observe the self as well as others too? So this is number fifth, which I started. Most of the time, I try to watch myself, try to become the observer. Watch the maximum, whether I'm walking, whether I'm drinking tea, whether I'm driving, whether I'm talking to my clients. Am I an observer? I keeps on asking this question. Am I watching myself? I keeps on asking these questions. Am I mindful? I keeps on asking these questions. So many times, millions of times it happened with me that I have gone out of the track. I'm not aware what I'm doing. I goes out of the track. But the moment this question came, am I aware in the moment? Suddenly I came back to present. And it happens thousands and millions of times, and slowly I observe this amount of self-awareness is increasing. And sometimes when you are sleeping, you can watch yourself also. So during the communication, during your professional work experience, during your day-to-day working, during your communications, during your other act, it is possible to watch and observe. as a third person, which is not involved in your actions, in your thoughts, in your reactions, but slowly, 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 it happened in my life, which is started with the breathing. When I started asking my questions, this asking the questions, revealing the self, and making yourself totally naked in front of yourself, what exactly you are doing in the particular moment. I experiencing a lot of changes in my communication, in my connection, in my self-awareness level, in my reactions, in my responses, in my observations. And you won't believe, I tried to change my driving. Suppose I was driving a car for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. I tried to shift it from normal driving to mindful driving. Mindful driving means if I am driving, I am total with the driving, no mobile phone, no music, no audio, nothing else. Be total with the drive. Sitting, getting enter into a car, plugging in the key, give a 10-second pause. 10-second pause, connect with the self, connect with your car. And 3 years back, a research paper was published with Oxford University. They said they have done a research with a lot of people, which was part of my research also, because we were trying to deliver the MBT-based devices which can help the reduce of your stress level and your anxiety level. Before to start driving, if you give a pause and take a deep breath and connect with yourself for 10 or 15 seconds, it reduced the possibility of your accident by 60 to 70%. Simple technique, but very powerful. So then I made a transformational shift from breathing to all the activities in my day-to-day life. Normal bathing can be a mindful bathing process. Normal drinking tea can be a mindful drinking tea process. Driving can also be mindful driving. Listening can also be mindful listening. Speaking can also be a mindful speaking. Writing can also be a mindful writing. Eating can also be a mindful eating. It means when I'm eating, I'm be total with the eating. I'm not watching TV, I'm not watching mobile phone, I'm not eating my thoughts, sitting silently. Because you might have heard there is a famous experiment which has been done by Pavlov. What he has done, he has measured the secretion of saliva whenever you are eating your food with a stress, or whenever you are eating your food with a lot of noise, whenever you are eating your food with a lot of chattering of mind, your saliva secretion reduces. Your saliva, which help us and meet with your food and help us in digestion. So this is something which is I'm not simply read it. I changed my eating into mindful eating, at least for 10 or 15 minutes. Be total with the eating. And mindful eating gave a tremendous, you can have a tremendous taste of your food, and it boosts your digestion, entire digestion system. So started from a breathing, then all the act from my day-to-day life, like from 2011 to 2020, a lot of struggle. In fact, in 3 years back, we lost our family members, and it was very difficult period for all of us. I lost my brother-in-law and sister, and that was a real testing time for me. During the COVID period, all the family members, they were infected through COVID, and somebody is playing tight in your family. It was quite risky that how to cope up with that situation, because it was quite spreadable. Everybody was infected. Thoughts started, overthinking started immediately into the entire family. Who is going to save and who is going to live and who's going to die? It was unsure. But at that time, this mindfulness gave me inner strength. We all, the family members, 4 to 5 family, we isolated ourselves. We were closed in our own rooms for 7 to 10 days. Nobody was there to cook the food for us. We were with the support of Zomato and some other online platforms. At that time, only one thought was there. If it happens to my mother, it happens to my father, it happens to my wife, it happens to my daughter, who is going to take care of them? Frequency was very high. I asked a question. Is it happened? Mind replied, no, it's not happened. What is in your LOC? I asked, what is in my locus of control in this moment? Mind replied, you have to live in the moment. That is in your control. If you are giving your energy for those things which are not in your control, your mind goes out of control. Once again, I repeat, if you are giving energy to something which is not in your control, your mind goes out of control. Are you in your senses? I asked from myself. Mind replied, yes, I am into my senses. I couldn't sleep for 2 to 3 nights, but somehow I was continuously observing the thoughts which were there when I was in total isolation. Every family member was in isolation. One of the family member died. But that observation, that silence, take me out from that situations. Unfortunately, none of the other family members get affected, and hopefully we all are still young. So well, this was the one situations, and there are hundreds of situations was there in my life. When I'm talking to people, people simply ask, you talk about mindfulness, but when mind goes out of control, it's not easy to control it. I say that's true. And for that, after 2020, I started making some MBT, which is called mindfulness based techniques, which doesn't require any specific meditative practice. But yes, the way you live your life by making small changes, by breaking your patterns, by changing, by asking the questions, you can attain that state of mind, which is not impossible. It looks difficult, but it's easiest, but it is also not that much easy as much it looks difficult, because mind is the most complex phenomena. And if you want to know your mind, you need to know your thoughts. And if you want to know your thoughts, you need to know the silence. And if you can experience the silence, you can easily control your mind. And to attain that silence, you have to be total. And how to be total, that is not something which you can simply learn by reading or your simply information. That you need to practice. This session, which is a crux of my experience, nothing is going to change through simply listening. Nothing is going to change until we practice, until we ask questions, until we really live what exactly I'm living in this particular moment. Until we don't practice, we don't find any change. So when we talk about transformation, when we talk about change, it's quite simple. If you want to learn swimming, any textbook about swimming is not going to teach you how to swim unless you don't enter into the swimming pool or you enter into the river and you start practicing it. So after in last 15 years, after delivering thousands of sessions, talking with hundreds of people, I experienced that all the problems are being originated from mind, and mind is having the solutions of all these problems. And if you can understand your mind, you can reprogram your mind by changing the thoughts which you carry, which we call auto suggestion, sometimes say classical conditioning your mind. So we'll discuss some more other techniques also to reprogram your mind, to change its content, to change the thought, to change the emotions, to change the feelings, to bring the more and more spontaneity in your life. But yes, I can tell you how, but I cannot do it for you. You have to do it yourself. If you want to bring lot of people talk about, you have to be confident, you have to be a good leader, you should boost your confidence. But the $1 million question is how. If I say I should have a good personality, where your personality exists, where your confidence exists, where your skill set exists. And when we go to the root, mind is the root where everything has been stored. All learnings are part of mind. All skill set is a part of mind. It's a kind of processor which exactly regulates, a kind of software which regulates our life. So if it is a software, then definitely its programming is possible. If it is a software, then definitely its reprogramming is also possible. If it is a software, then definitely when people can create virus, then antivirus is also possible. So how to generate the antivirus for the self? That is really something which is important. So after a lot of transitional shift, after a lot of struggle, after a lot of practice, after a lot of thousands and thousands and millions time, I become unsuccessful in living in present. But still, the moment you wake up and the moment you come to know that, yes, I'm aware in this particular moment, slowly, what happens? This percentage increases. This cloud cannot be evaporated in a fraction of a second, but yes, it can be reduced over a span of period. And you experience, yes, so many times. Most of the time, I am silent. I am connected with the self. And that is only possible by making changes. By making changes how you breathe, by making changes how you walk, by making changes how you live in the moment, by making changes, try to one of the more wonderful experience. We should not try to become multitasker as much as possible. Try to be monotasker, one task at a time, as much as totality we can give, as much as possible. If there is not an emergency, try to involve with the monotasking. Right now, suppose we are involved with the listening, try to be total energy should be given to your ears where you can listen yourself. Be a total listener. We might have seen a singer who is performing on a stage. When he's totally, he closes his eyes and there is no thought in mind, and he performs from heartful, total heart. So monotasking is important. And the more and more we become a monotasker, it increases our personal effectiveness as well as efficiency both, because we are totally involved with the task. So we should shift from multitasking to monotasking. And the more we'll make this transitional shift, the better experience we generate in our day-to-day life. And this is what I experienced when I become a monotasker. It means when I'm driving, simply driving. When I'm eating, simply eating. When I'm speaking, simply speaking. When I'm listening, be total with the listening, with non-judgmental mindset. Non-judgmental. I'm not a judge. I'm not a decider. Try to become neutral and be a good observer. If you want to say your point, that's absolutely true. But don't try to be prejudiced. So this non-judgmental observation results in mindfulness. And the result is that life is wonderful. Every moment is new, every moment is fresh. You can enjoy each and every bit of your life. You can improve your relationship, you can kill your ego, you can be a good husband, you can be a good wife, you can be a good parent. You can listen yourself. Creativity increases like anything. Creativity increases like anything. You are totally aware for this particular moment. You feel more connected, you feel more motivated, you feel yourself like as a flowing river, not as a pond who is stagnant. River always remain fresh because it is moving on in the moment with self-awareness. The water of the pond, there is no movement. Am I motivated? We should ask. Am I living in the present? We should ask. The more and more I ask questions, the more and more I ask questions like, this is something. This is something which we call, it's a basic technique which has been developed over a period of time. You can take out a paper and you can write, am I getting angry, or am I aware in this particular moment? क्या मैं इस समय अपना काम होशपूर्वक कर रहा हूँ? इसको मैं अपने सामने अगर रखता हूँ और ये सवाल मैं अपने आप से दिन में 50 बार पूछता हूँ, it helps to reprogram my mind. This question reprogram my mind that am I aware in this particular moment? How it works? So let's try to understand. Yeah. This is a very famous experiment has been done by Pavlov. And what he did, he tried to serve the food to some particular dog, and saliva started secreting. Next week, he started ringing a bell. There is no saliva secretion, which we call, how mind get conditioned, how mind get programmed. So third week, what he did, he served the food and ringing the bell, saliva started secreting because there is a connection establishing between a bell and food. And then last week, you'll find simply ringing the bell and saliva started secreting. So what happened? Mind get conditioned. The moment bell is ringing, food is going to come. And this is what this, questions, when we ask these questions, am I aware in this moment? Am I really conscious? Am I getting angry? Am I present and present? Anything. So this questioning, which transformed my life when I started asking questions and daily practicing and writing some 4 to 5 questions. And the answer generate next question, root cause analysis. Then you find yourself the basic trouble. Because we what I observed, we don't give time to ourselves. We have a lot of time. We have a lot of time to watch cricket matches. We have a lot of time to watching movies hours together, but we don't give time to the self. And that's the basic reason we are not connected. In last 15 years, I give a lot of time to myself. I try to read myself. I try to watch myself. I try to listen myself. I try to find out. I try to do SWOT analysis for myself. Sit silently, do nothing, watch the self. Sit silently, do nothing, watch the self. You'll become mind. So it is something कि सिर्फ ख्वाहिशों से नहीं गिरते हैं फूल झोली में, कर्म की साख को हिलाना होगा और कुछ नहीं होगा कोसने से अंधेरों को, अपने हिस्से का दिया खुद ही जलाना होगा. So if you want to enlighten yourself, you have to work hard. Simply knowledge, simply talking, simply experience, simply watching others, it's good. But if I want to have some sort of change in myself, I have to develop my own techniques. I have to make myself available to so that I can connect it. So it's a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful transformation. A lot of changes. Your total personality changes. Your persona changes. Your aura changes. Your energy level changes. And you can feel yourself. And you can watch yourself. And it's like when water is silent, you can see your image, and water is wavery and water is shaky and a lot of waves are there. You're going to watch yourself. So noise reduces, silence increases, and silence is a language to connect the self. Silence is a language to connect the self. So am I silent? We should ask, am I silent? Am I noisy? What is the root cause of that noise? What is the trigger that is generating the noise? Who is generating that noise? So I think it was my perspective. It was from my point of view. So Gagi, over to you. If somebody would like to have a question, so it would be a great pleasure that we can have some question answer session also, and we can share the experience.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone had a mindful listening today.
Yeah.
So anyone here has any question, so you have the opportunity to ask and he will be answering. Anyone here? I hope everyone were connecting with their inner self with the silence.
Yeah, you can see in a chat box also if some.
It was me who had messaged when
Okay.
you said mindful eating. What I feel is food is the energy which is flowing as a secretion. All how do I control overthinking? Shraddha ji has asked.
Okay, wonderful. So let us try to understand what is overthinking. When I say if I'm overthinking, what happens? It means this is something. Overthinking is like, left state of mind when a lot of thoughts are there. So what happens when I overthink? What happens when I overthink? At that time, if I ask from myself, am I present and present? The moment you overthink, you shift. If you are present, there is no overthinking. But the moment you go to your past and the moment you go to your future, it generates overthinking. For example, suppose I am holding this glass, and if I'm holding for hours together, what happens? My hands start paining. If I'm holding it for 2 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, my hands start paining, isn't it? What is required? Let it go. If I keep it, I release myself. I am holding. So when I say overthinking, who is holding the thought? My mind is holding the thought. Who is generating this traffic? My mind is generating the traffic. How I can release it? If I am present, I can release it. If I'm in past or future, I cannot release it. So somebody said, आज से 20 साल पहले किसने कुछ कहा है, I'm holding it in a form of thought. That is generating the trouble. 20 years back, 10 years back, somebody has said something to me, I'm holding it. Some experience, I'm holding it. Some bad events, I'm holding it. In present also. Or what is going to be happen in future, I'm holding it. I'm trying to hold the future which doesn't exist. I'm trying to hold the past which doesn't exist. What is required? Be in a present. And the moment you become in present, this thought stops. Traffic starts. So one of the primary necessary things to reduce the overthinking is try to slow down in your day-to-day life. Slow down, relax your body. Just slow down, relax your body. Change your patterns. If you love music, try to listen it. If you love dancing, try to dance it. If you love walking, try to walk. If you love running, try to running. Increase your physical activity, but without fixed patterns. Incorporate new techniques. So the moment you come to present, the moment you connect to yourself, this traffic of thought reduces. And one of the most powerful things to reduce overthinking is to slow down your breathe and make it deep, which we say very simple. It is called inhale, pause, exhale, pause. This is very powerful, and you can do anytime, any place, and anywhere. Simply take a deep inhale. Your total energy would be focused on your breath. Thought will stop. or thought will reduce. The moment you give a pause to yourself, your thought and the flow of thought will get reduced. And the moment you change the way you breathe, means 60 सेकेंड में आप कितनी बार ये साइकिल पूरा करते हैं? 5 बार, 10 बार, 15 बार, 20 बार, आप घड़ी के साथ मेजर कर लीजिए. इनहेल पॉज, एक्सेल पॉज, दिस इज वन साइकिल. एंड इफ you are going through overthinking, just count the number of cycle in a minute, and your aim is to reduce this cycle. If it is 20, reduce to 15. If it is 15, reduce to 10. If it is 10, reduce to 5. And see the magic. The magic is that your traffic of thoughts will get reduced because your total energy would be aligned in your breath. And this deep inhale and exhale will give a more calmness. It will change the neurotransmitter or chemical of your mind, and you'll come to the present. And once you will get the taste of living in the present, it is very contagious. You will love it, you will enjoy it, and slowly you will find you are not being controlled by your mind, but you will become master to control your mind. So breathing is powerful. And slowly, if you are drinking your tea, and if you are a right-handy person, try to use your left hand also sometime to break the patterns. You can drink your tea with your left hand also. If you are brushing your teeth since last 20, 30, 40 years with your right hand, tomorrow you can try or brush your teeth with your left hand also, because it's something which is creative, which is something different, and you change your patterns. So at least for 5 minutes while you are brushing your teeth with your left hand, you will become self-aware. And the moment you will become self-aware, thought reduces. Self-awareness is the key to reduce your thoughts. Self-awareness is the key to reduce this traffic. So I'm not self-aware. That's why mind, especially unconscious minds, takes the control. And the moment I become conscious, the moment I become self-aware, unconscious loses its control. I come into present and I enjoy the life. I think, is it sufficient, or do I?
Yes, thank you so much. Wonderful example. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Seriously. Thank you. So anyone else here?
There's a lot of messages
already. Yes.
So most of the messages, if you find any questions, then that's most welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much. I would like to ask a quick question. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
All right. So my name is Jagjit, and mostly we all do multitasking. And sometimes in this multitasking, as I attended this very mindfully, and I can say that it would help me in the future. But currently, there's only one question that's coming to my mind. When we are thinking, when we are multitasking, generally it has been suggested in the past before attending this program that the thinking that you're doing, the self-thinking that you're doing, you don't need approval or validation from anybody. However, at times you think that you need somebody to listen to you and to acknowledge, accept what you're doing, what you're thinking is correct. Obviously, you will not have a second person all the time. As you mentioned, object, subject, and self-observer and visualizer. I understood that concept. But sometimes, to justify your own doing, you want somebody to validate that you are on the right track, you're thinking right, because it can also generate. Now, what is the definition of negative or positive? For me, it could be positive, but if an outsider looks into that, it could be negative. So I am a little seeking clarity on this aspect of validation. Do we need a second person, or is it just me and myself? Object, subject, visualizer, observer. Am I on that track?
Yeah, wonderful. Excellent question by Jagdeep. It's a really great sense of intelligence. One thing is, we have a delusion. First, I'll answer your multitasking and monotasking. We have an illusion that we do multitasking, but the basic phenomena of working of mind is that it always works one task at a time. You cannot have two thoughts parallelly, but you can have higher frequency of thoughts, which you can think that you are doing multitasking. But we always do one task at a time. So if you reduce the frequency and if you slow down, then we can observe the difference between monotasking and multitasking. This is number one question. Number two, according to Einstein, everything in this entire world is relative. The principle of relativity. You can never be perfect. You can never be perfect, but yes, you can be total. What does it mean? Sometime when we talk about validation, one person will validate, yes, you are right. Another will say, no. You need more improvement. You cannot change the world. Foolish people try to change others. Wise people try to change themselves. What does it mean? Yes, validation is required sometimes, but who is asking for this validation? When I say who is asking for this validation, the answer is my mind is asking for this validation. Another question is why mind is asking for a validation? Is it not confident enough to know that whatever he is doing is right or wrong? Then again, mind replies, sometime yes, sometime no. What are those moments when mind doesn't take a decision that am I right or wrong? Those moments are those things when I somehow not connected with the self, when a lot of noise is there, when there is no clarity in life, what I want to be. When there is no clarity, we need validation. When there is a clarity, there is no validation at all required. Validation is something, when we talk about standardized position and when we talk about scientific terminology, it's totally different. But when I'm talking about my life, if I'm connected, if I'm living a mindful life, there is no validation at all required. Because I know what I'm doing, because I know what is totality, because I know what is right and what is wrong. But when we talk in terms of relativity, you can never be right. You'll never be right. You can never be perfect. But yes, you can be total. So we should know what is my LOC, what is my locus of control, or in my locus of control, whatsoever I am doing, if I'm knowing what I'm doing, then you don't need validation. But if you go out of locus of control, then you need validation because it is not in your control. And sometimes you need validation of God. Sometimes you need validation of any mediator. Sometimes you need a validation of your parents. But in this judgment, their mind is involved, their conditioning is involved, their programming is involved, which is totally different from your programming. So how they can validate something which is totally two different programs, set of programs? I think, are you getting, Jagjeet?
Absolutely.
Yes. Even I was about to say, Pankaj, means when you are silent and we are connected with your inner self, you don't need any kind of validation. That is what you want to say, am I right?
Yes, perfectly, absolutely. Any other question?
So when validation is needed means my mind is not silence. It's full of thought.
Yes.
And I'm confused.
Yes, confused. Sometimes
maybe at that time I need someone's shoulder so that someone can give me a support and validate, yes, Gargi, you are right, because I'm not that confident.
That is what for we people are here, to support you, to listen you, to connect you, to guide you as per of our own experience. Or you can find someone else, maybe professional, maybe the one who is a real who has himself lived something which is mindfulness is. Because it's very easy to misguide somebody, but
True.
yeah, but you need to check, you need to ask the questions. If the person who is talking to you, if the person who is suggesting to you, if the person who is telling you some techniques, is it working on me or is it helpful for me or not? If it is helpful, if it is making my mind silent, then I'm on a right pathway. Otherwise, you change the person. You change your consultant, you change your bank. Keeps on checking. किसी ने वो कहा है ना कि wonderful lines, there is a transitional shift कि हर एक संकट का हल होगा, वो आज नहीं तो कल होगा. There is a darker side of light is कि माना कि अंधेर बहुत और चारों ओर नाकामी है, और माना कि थक कर टूट गए और सफर अभी दूरगामी है, और जीवन की आपाधापी में जीने का ठिकाना छूट गया, और माना कि थक कर टूट गए सपनों का नींद में आना छूट गया, और माना कि हिम्मत टूट गई और रात अभी गहराई है, माना कि चांद पे ग्रहण और चारों ओर निराशा छाई है. Sometime it happens in our all life. So श्री कृष्ण बोलते हैं कि कर्म तुम्हारा कल होगा, और कर्म तुम्हारा सच्चा है तो कर्म कहाँ निष्फल होगा. हर एक संकट का हल होगा, वो आज नहीं तो कल होगा. और ये मेरा माइंड ही बोलता है, मुझे ट्रस्ट होता है जब मैं जानता हूँ. और वो ट्रांजिशनल शिफ्ट के लिए वो बोलता है कि मुझे इतनी मेहनत करना है कि लोहा जितना तपता है वो उतनी ताकत भरता है, सोने को जितनी आग लगे वो उतना खूब निखरता है, और हीरे को जितनी धार लगे वो उतना खूब चमकता है, और सूरज जैसा बनना है तो सूरज जैसा जलना होगा, नदियों सा आदर पाना है तो पर्वत छोड़ निकलना होगा, और हम आदम के बेटे हैं क्यों सोचें राह सरल होगी, कुछ वक्त जरूर लगेगा लेकिन संघर्ष हमारा सफल होगा, हर एक संकट का हल होगा, वो आज नहीं तो कल होगा. सो ये जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल वाला फेज होता है, you have to burn yourself so many times, you will become unsuccessful, but if you don't stop, keeps on trying, then you can have the transitional shift and transformational experience in your life.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. Thank you so much. Immense gratitude. What a wonderful session. What a wonderful learning. What a wonderful mindful learning, I would say again. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining here. We really enjoyed, and trust me, I'll bring you again. I'll invite you again.
I'm always connected with you people, so there is no question at all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful mindful eating, mindful sleeping, and mindful listening. I feel this will really help you to connect with your inner self, and you will get all the answers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Pankaj again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.